On March 7, 1967, a stage musical based on Charles Schulz's comic strip Peanuts premiered off-Broadway in Manhattan's East Village. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown was originally conceived by composer Clark Gessner as a concept album. He had spent much of the 60s simply composing songs inspired by the day-to-day adventures of Charlie Brown, Linus, Lucy, and Snoopy, keeping them on the back burner until he could get the rights to release them. As such, the stage musical is a series of very loosely connected vignettes instead of a single story, sort of like reading a Peanuts comic compilation but in musical form. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown proved quite a success, stretching out to Broadway, the West End in London, and running through several tours, winning several awards, and becoming a staple for community theaters thanks to its small cast and minimal sets. My local theater last performed it in 2020. So with that level of success, it was only natural they would do the one thing that has always been successful every time: a Broadway sequel. Snoopy the Musical premiered in San Francisco on December 9th, 1975. Much like its older sibling, Snoopy the Musical strings together a bunch of songs through hazy, unrelated stories. This time with good pupper Snoopy in the middle of things instead of poor old Charlie Brown. This time, however, the show didn't make it to Broadway. While I wouldn't go so far as to say it bombed, it did review a little worse than its predecessor, the novelty of the first musical now lost in its reiteration. Snoopy the Musical almost feels like a compilation of songs cut from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which isn't true at all. Clark Gessner wasn't involved with this second production, the music instead being composed by Larry Grossman with lyrics by Hal Hackety. Snoopy the Musical had some runs off-Broadway and in the West End, but to this day, it remains mostly eclipsed by its predecessor. Meanwhile, animated Peanuts specials had become a huge television tradition, CBS airing 35 of them between 1965 and 1992. As you can imagine, ideas started to run a little dry after a few decades. We've done all the major holidays: Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Easter. We even did one for Arbor Day. By the 1980s, we were getting specials like It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown. With the well starting to run dry, it was only a matter of time before the stage musicals saw their way into animated adaptations. The animated You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown special premiered on CBS on November 6, 1985, and the Snoopy the Musical adaptation premiered on January 29, 1988. The hour-long special, produced by Bill Melendez Productions, directed by Sam James, hasn't gotten much love since its premiere. It's had limited rebroadcasts, no DVD releases in the US, no real streaming presence, but it did air on Nickelodeon as part of You're on Nickelodeon, Charlie Brown, which combined all of the specials and a handful of other Peanuts television projects into one long-running television show. Split into a two-parter, Snoopy the Musical aired on Nickelodeon on March 23rd and March 24th, 1998. And making it a two-parter is fine because it doesn't have a story to break up. I'm being mean. I don't mean to be so mean. Snoopy the Musical is a perfectly pleasant affair, and this animated version might be its best iteration. Part of that is just that I don't really care for when adults dress up like Charlie Brown and company. The closer they try to look like the old comic strip characters, the more unsettling they get. And watching a 40-year-old musical theater actor dressed in a Charlie Brown Halloween costume pine over the little redhead girl, that just ain't it for me. Having mostly actual children sing these songs makes it feel like a more authentic Peanuts experience.
I know now that you can't bounce a snowball. You can, but not very high. Just think of a G, how great it would be if I could go back somehow and have my life to live over, knowing what I know now.
The big shakeup here is giving Snoopy a voice. While Snoopy in the comics was very vocal via Thought Balloon, most of the animated specials opted to keep him silent, and he never really found his voice in the same way that, say, Garfield did. Snoopy never quite found his Lorenzo music, but if anyone came the closest, it was Cam Clarke.
Just think, Head Beagle! I wish I knew where Mom was. Beautiful moments are meant to be shared.
Perhaps you know Cam Clarke as Leonardo on the 87 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Liquid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. Once you get over the initial shock of Snoopy having a voice at all, Clark's version of the character is absolutely charming. imbuing him with a sort of childlike innocence and wonder that's very fitting for this outing in particular, as Snoopy goes about his day imagining himself as a star or as a successful novelist.
At that very moment, a young intern was making an important discovery. The mysterious patient in room 23 had suddenly awakened. She moaned softly. Could it be that she was the sister of the boy in Kansas who loved the girl with the tattered shawl, who was the daughter of the maid who had escaped from the pirates? The intern frowned. That has a good ring to it. See how neatly it all fits together?
Clark wasn't the first person to voice Snoopy. Robert Towers played him in the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown special. And I guess if you count all the specials where Snoopy makes laughing and grunting noises, then Bill Melendez has them all beat. But Clark was the most reoccurring voice actor whenever the character had actual lines. He would voice Snoopy again in 1989 for This Is America, Charlie Brown, and for The World of Snoopy, an animatronic storytelling toy in the vein of Teddy Ruxpin.
He's been an author, a flying ace, and Joe Cool. And now, finally, he's ready to talk.
Hi there. How have you been? This time, the round-headed kid seemed determined. Woodstock and I quickly started to fill our backpacks. Dreamed of being in far-off lands, very close to that kite-eating tree. Oh, no! Well, we had a pretty good time today.
Snoopy talks.
Alas, the idea of Snoopy being a talking character wouldn't stick for the long term. And it's a shame, because Snoopy ended up being one of Clark's favorite roles. I've had many wonderful solo opportunities over the course of my over 50 years in the entertainment business, but one stands out as my personal favorite. Nothing can beat the thrill of getting to play the part of an iconic character from a comic strip that I love, was infatuated with actually, as a child. I first discovered this strip in the waiting room of my piano teacher when I was 8 years old. She had Peanuts paperbacks on a small table. I picked one up and was memorized by the incredible genius of Mr. Charles Schulz. So when I auditioned and then was offered the role of Snoopy in the animated version of the stage play Snoopy the Musical, I was ecstatic. The songs themselves are mostly good to great. The only one I don't think works that well is Poor Sweet Baby, a melancholic song where Peppermint Patty pretends to care about Charlie Brown's sensitivities before dumping him back into reality like a bad habit.
Like that, Chuck?
Just like that, Patty.
Forget it, Chuck. It'll never happen.
Peanuts has always been surprisingly mean, but this is just mean. We get some decent songs about what kids learn as they grow older, what images they see in the clouds, but a real highlight for me was Edgar Allan Poe, where the Peanuts gang have to present reports on the famed writer, with various levels of understanding. Of course, Linus just nails it.
Don't let the world find out what I don't know about Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan stories and essays wrote the history of Marie Roget, Hiawatha and the road to Mandalay. Joined the army in the spring of 27. Are you listening, Heaven?
Dickens' Christmas Carol.
Help me!
And then there's the final number, Just One Person, where the Peanuts gang all come together to sing about believing in each other and believing in yourself.
If just one person believes in you, deep enough and strong enough believes in you, hard enough and long enough, before you knew it, someone else would think, if he can do it, I can do it. Making it too.
Wait a minute. I've heard this song before. Didn't they perform this on The Muppet Show? And on that one Sesame Street Christmas special? And at Jim Henson's funeral? I love this song. It was all over the Muppets. I didn't know it came from Snoopy the Musical. So it turns out that Larry Grossman ended up as a musical consultant for the first 3 seasons of The Muppet Show, picking the songs that the show's celebrity guests would sing. This led to not only Just One Person becoming a Muppet staple, but Grossman bringing in songs that had been cut from Snoopy the Musical, most notably the Ralph the Dog classic, 8 Little Notes, obviously written for Schroeder before the character was cut from the musical.
All he had was 8 little notes, just 8 little notes like these, which goes to show that one man's scale is another man's symphonies. Oh yeah. Bum, 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 bum.
I hadn't experienced Snoopy the Musical before this commission, but as a huge Muppets fan, I suppose I've known it all along. At the time of this writing, there's a decent quality version of Snoopy the Musical up on YouTube, and if you're a fan of Peanuts, I do recommend it. In fact, I think it's a little bit better than You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The earlier musical may have been more novel, but Snoopy the Musical, pound for pound, has more good music. Cam Clark's Snoopy should be experienced at least once, and Just One Person is probably the second best song to come out of the entire Peanuts franchise after Christmas Time is Here. It's hard to have a bad time with the Peanuts gang, something someone at Nickelodeon knew full well. But how Charlie Brown and Snoopy ended up on Nick is a story for another day. This was just a sample.